I just don't have anything that I could possibly sacrifice. And then the thing is, who are you to say? This is somehow the principle. Always ask yourself, well, how can I possibly know? God's ways are mysterious.
Yeah, it is difficult. It is difficult. You don't have a life. You don't have what to sacrifice. Your whole schedule is completely full. All you do is practice in karma yoga. You find it is integrated. It is part of it. I don't know. I do it. Yeah. When did we have last Saturday or Saturday before that? There was nobody to Zoom. Our schedule was completely packed. 5 minutes before we found that I'm zooming for Blandine, Blandine is zooming for me. So here we were zooming for each other.
I was doing 5 other things in the meantime.
Yeah, so we had another hour and I don't know what. Okay, so I went to sleep an hour later that day because I still had my tapas after that. But this is how this lecture also was born on that day, because we just heard that there's nobody to Zoom. I said, okay, then we do it. It wasn't like, oh, but why didn't you? Or why didn't I? Then we do it. And we were so joyful. And with that joy, we went to practice, and not tired to practice until 1 o'clock in the night. It gives you an extra energy as you do it. And you see that the friction, sometimes you don't sleep. When we were building the last stage of Amrita, I was sleeping with all the health situations for 4 hours a night for a certain period. Fine. But I got a certain extra power, which was needed for, it wasn't needed for Uyal. Uyal didn't need extra power, but Amrita needed extra power. And Uyal placed himself for the whole, for Amrita. So Uyal was empowered. Now if I sleep 4 hours, I'll be very tired. But for that period, I slept 4 hours, and I was fine, a bit bouncy, let's say, but not more than that.
I feel it is very important to understand that sacrifice is not only time sacrifice, right? Sacrifice happens on all the different levels of the being. You can sacrifice your attitude, you can sacrifice thoughts, you can sacrifice, for example, just the overall structure that you have. You can sacrifice security, you can sacrifice opinions, ways that you see things, and so forth. All of this adds into this sacrifice bundle. And then, when you, and I know this question, it comes from me as well, and I've heard it from many students, okay, but then I just, for example, in my day, in my time spent, I just don't have anything that I could possibly sacrifice. And then the thing is, who are you to say? This is somehow the principle. Always ask yourself, well, how can I possibly know? God's ways are mysterious. I don't know. I have no idea why this is happening, why I'm being asked something, to do something specific, or why I'm having this inspiration now to go and do this, even though it doesn't fit in my schedule. And of course, it needs a lot of discernment to check, because sure, sometimes the inspiration comes, oh, I should not do my tapas and do a movie instead. Let's see where that attitude came from. Probably not from the right place. So it requires this continuous seeking for God's will. This is what the sacrifice does. That you always search, okay, but thy will be done, not mine. Thy will be done, not mine. That's what this sacrifice attitude does. And then you will find exactly what is to be sacrificed. And you say, God, everything that I am is yours. What do you want me to do? And you let him surprise you. And then you do that, whatever it may be. And he might say, please stick to your schedule precisely. Okay, then you do that. And he might say, crush it all, do something completely different. Or he might say, adjust these 5 minutes. That you do. And you will see already, the ego gets a shock, the heart is elevated, the joy arises. It's instantaneous.
Yeah, if you want to know the will of God, look at your individual unwillingness to follow that will. That's obvious. That you can see. Oh, I can't see the will of God, I can't see the will of God. Sure, because if we have unwillingness to see the will of God, God doesn't want to force. Will not force us. But what we can see is that we don't want to do His will. That appears on not very obvious, but that is accessible for us to see. And if we see, okay, I don't want to do God's will, Forget about it. I want to eat and have everything secure, and I don't want any trouble, and I just want to live a safe life. Fine, that's where I stand. Okay, you will not change it in 1 second just because you saw it, but have it there. And then you start to diminish a little bit. You know what? Also, if some people will not like me and they will insult me, I'm still willing to do God's will for that. Taking in consideration that I will die one day and that they will die one day, not a bad deal to rather connect with God than have people that I don't really care about praise me. Okay, I can do that, but mentally in the beginning, and then as a level of being. And then gradually to see, and you know what, I could get by also if God's plans will be that I have less money or less financial security, or that I will need this or that I will need that. And then gradually, as our willingness to be flexible in front of that will, in front of the will of God, it will start to appear more. Yeah, for Francis, he had to cry for many months before he received his inspiration to go and repair that church. But he was sure. And in the process of crying, tell me your will, tell me your will, tell me your will, what happened? The longing dissolved his unwillingness to do God's will. So all we need to do is to meditate on that unwillingness and melt it with our tears. So this is practical. Yeah? And then it will appear. Correct sacrifice is of the lower for the higher. If you sacrifice entertainment for spiritual growth, very good. Yeah. And this always needs to be measured. This is why we have things in order to give them to something higher. And indeed, it needs to be in a good balanced place, because basically, if you take away your time together, you take away, I don't know what, the quality of the spiritual practice and so forth, in order to do what? In order to finish something quicker, that will anyway finish. You are sacrificing the sweetness of the heart, and with the sweetness of the heart, the integration of the project, in order to do it a bit faster. It doesn't weigh correctly. And it would be rather to sacrifice a little bit, to go the other way, to sacrifice a little bit the speed of the project, which is fine if it takes it a little bit longer. Like we said, it took us 4.5 years. With Amrita, it's rather to do it a little slower, but have the integration golden, and have your inner state very elevated, and your practice time and loving time and everything very good, than to rush and to do something good, losing the integration and losing the heart.
I want to add that, yes, it is a tricky business, but on the other hand, it's actually very, very simple. And I feel it only ever becomes tricky when we try to understand it. When we try to understand, when we are like, okay, so this amount of practice, this amount of love life, this amount of coming, then it becomes really tricky. But actually, I feel it's very much about the momentary relation that you build with God. So, for example, if you figure out and you're like, wow, I'm exhausted, I'm not seeing my woman, she's completely drying out, this ain't good. But then you ask God, okay, God, so what to do with this? Because we tend to say, this didn't work out, now let's rely back on the mind. Let's reintroduce this and this. And there's nothing wrong with trying out with the schedule, but let it be inspired by God. Always relate in that way. I feel this is very much the key, and much, much more so than the ego will try to have an occasional feedback from God and then do its own thing. And that doesn't really work. It's just, it can bring you some steps ahead, but there will always be a glass ceiling to this. And the karma yoga aspect of it would be to really continuously seek out God's will. Because even from the mistake that you made, there is a doorway back onto the godly will within that, It's not, now I need to go back and fix my mistake and now have 3 months where I'm redoing the schedule. No, it's not needed. That's the mind. You're wasting time, Go back to asking God. This is what you forgot. Ask God, ask God, ask God. That was what was forgotten. It was not forgotten the couple time. That was a consequence of forgetting God. You know, when you relate to God, the couple is integrated immediately. That evening when we were filming each other here, we were so polarized, we were so happy with each other. It had an immediate effect, you know. So I want to encourage you to rely less on the mind and rely more on God, because He has a perfect plan, so perfect we cannot think of it. We can't think of it. Each time I make a step towards God and I sacrifice anything, any little tiny thing to do God's will, even in the smallest scale, He immediately surprises me. Immediately. And it's like, really? This is what you came up with? Now you turn around. This thing that I thought is set in stone, that I thought it's done with, that I thought is like this, now you're turning this back around. Now you're bringing, I didn't know I can even feel like that, and didn't even know I could have that type of meditation, you know? You're tired in the meditation, ask God, what am I supposed to sacrifice? Maybe you're supposed to sit for 3 months and be super tired in meditation and push through, and then you'll have samadhi. Maybe, you know? So I want to encourage you to always relate back to that, because the mind just it can't know and it can't fix. And it's not a game between God's hints and our mind catching the hints. No, it is God giving a direction, the heart following instantaneously, and everything else falls into place.
Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.